With this change, we're looking at starting practices at 4:20 instead of 4 o'clock. And those would get out somewhere between 6:20 and 6:45 is what we're looking at. So you're really not adding that much more time to a practice. And, you know, those practices that do go longer are usually at the beginning because there's a lot more things for coaches to try to get in and install before the competition. But as the season goes, then those practices become shorter and would probably be done even before 6:20 with a lot of them.
From the school board to the state government, Kansas lawmakers are considering a bill that would guarantee child support payments from the moment of conception. Supporters of the measures say it's about making sure children receive the best health care from day one. Opponents argue that the bill could be the first step towards overturning the constitutionally protected right to an abortion in Kansas. Now moving closer to home, the Grow Decatur County Foundation awarded a $7,500 grant to the Decatur Shooting Sports so that they could purchase equipment to provide local athletes with the necessities to compete at a higher level. Decatur Shooting Sports serves kids 9 through 18 and provides an opportunity to develop skills in trap, skeet, and sporting clays. The Sherman County Health Department is offering CPR and AED certification through a hands-on learning course. The cost is $50 to be educated by skilled trainers. Contact the Sherman County Health Department to schedule an appointment. For more information on this and other stories, visit nwksradio.net.
Rocket 102.5.
Southwest winds this morning at 5 to 15 miles per hour. Turn more south this afternoon. Increase 20 to 30 miles per hour with gusts to 40. Combined with low relative humidity and sunshine from high pressure overhead, red flag warning is in place, thus no outdoor burning. Highs could be near record readings of 78 in Colby, Goodland, and Tribune. Tomorrow, a strong 975 low pressure system will pack plenty of wind and some wraparound afternoon rain showers. A high wind watch is in place for counties along Highway 25 and west of 83 from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. Central Time, where northwest winds of 35 to 45 miles per hour could gust up to 65 with blowing dust and hazardous travel concerns along I-70 and east-west highways. Could pick up a 10th to 30 points of rain in northwest counties. Otherwise, it continues to be dry into Saturday with windy and cooler conditions. This is meteorologist Chris Schromick from the NWKS Radio Weather Center.
Spring is coming, and Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware has everything you need to kick off the season. Get your lawn looking its best with Ultimate Fertilizer and power up with Ego blowers and mowers. Got a project? They've got a surplus of lumber ready to go. Plus, fire up the fun with their selection of grills and griddles, but hurry, they're selling like hotcakes. Hoover's is also proud to sponsor the Pioneer 5K, 10K, half and full marathon supporting Colby Community College cross country on April 26th and remind you to sign up and participate. It's Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware in Goodland and Colby, your one-stop shop for spring.
Get ready for the Schilling Cattle Production Sale Wednesday, March 26th at 1 p.m. Central Time. With 60 Angus and 5 Limflex bulls and 10 Angus heifers, there's plenty to choose from. These are big, stout performance kind of cattle and great selection for Cavionese bulls. Check them out on Facebook at Schilling Cattle, or you can also watch the sale at TV Auction. The sale is located 6 miles north of the I-70 Exchange in Brewster, Kansas. Come check out great cattle, meet great people, and best of all, eat some fantastic food. So don't forget to mark your calendars for the Schilling Cattle Production Sale Wednesday, March 26th, 6 miles north of Brewster, Kansas.
Earl Chevrolet GMC in Goodland, Kansas is hiring now, looking for technicians of all levels and a service advisor to join their team. Enjoy competitive wages, consistent work, plus 401k and health benefits, all in a great work environment. If you're ready for a rewarding career with a trusted dealership, apply today. Visit them in person on South Commerce Road in Goodland or apply on Facebook. Join the Earl Chevrolet GMC family today.
Farmers, what do you expect from your crop insurance agent and company? Knowledge? Service? Peace of mind knowing you have the coverage you need for your operation? This is what you deserve and more. This is what you have with Rain and Hail Insurance and the girls at the insurance agency in Goodland. Now is the time to stop by the office to review and change your coverage before the March 15th deadline. Stop in and see Roxanne, Susan, and Judy at the insurance agency, located at 1020 Main in Goodland, or call 899-5011 for your peace of mind.
If you're shopping for a banking institution, visit with Equity Bank of Hoxie, Grinnell, and Quinter, Kansas. The Equity Bank is heavily invested in local business and activities contributing in many ways back to their community. Their employees are involved with many organizations and area events. Plus, a lot of experience comes with that staff. You'll find valuable local assistance when you bank at the Equity Bank of Hoxie, Grinnell, Quinter, and other locations in Western Kansas. The Equity Bank, member FDIC.
Are you ready to turn your house into the ultimate hangout? Builder's Supply in Colby has everything you need for outdoor living. Deck furniture, cozy fire pits, and top-of-the-line grills. And they're now a Green Mountain Grill authorized dealer. Inside, you'll find a full line of plumbing supplies. Plus, they offer gorgeous Quaker windows and Shiloh cabinetry to upgrade your home both inside and out. Come see them at the Home and Better Living Show or visit Builder's Supply at 1965 Thielen in Colby.
You ready? Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4!
It's time for the Morning Blitz with Ross Volkmer.
There is a benefit to building a team and keeping it together for the length of time. But that does not happen anymore because of the portal and NIL and money.
And Max Gershon.
I'm a very confident Chiefs fan. Sometimes I'm very pessimistic as well.
The High Plains only local sports talk show. Broadcasting live on Rocket 102.5 and streaming on YouTube, Facebook, and X.
Who's got it better than that? No!
Covering it all from the preps.
He throws it up for Cure. Lincoln makes the catch, and he's running down the sideline. Nobody's there. 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, Goodland!
To the pros.
Bases loaded. Rockies down a run. McMahon drives it. Deep right field. How about a walk-off grand slam?
The Blitz is presented by Pearl Chevrolet GMC, Hoover Lumber Ace Hardware, and F&B Bank. Along with the insurance agency, the Farmer State Bank in Oakley, the Cowboy Corner Express, and Equity Bank of Hoxie, Quinter, and Grinnell.
Let's go to work.
Down to the baseline, out of the bucket, jump pass out top, taken by RJ, wide open, sets the feet. Oh! A dagger by RJ Smith. Buffs just play it in. Ball comes in to Andre Yakimowski, and number 16 seed Colorado has done it again. The magic of March continues in Kansas City in the Big 12 Conference Tournament.
KU will take over. Adams in traffic, kicks in the corner. AJ for three. Bullseye.
Why not?
AJ Storr does it again. He's got a dozen. Griffin fakes on a free. He'll drive instead. Inside Hunt. And a two-hand rim rockin' jam. Big Hunt has this game tied.
That is all she wrote. The Lady Eagles fly into round two with their first win in a state tournament since 2008.
Hey, good Thursday morning, everybody. Welcome inside the Morning Blitz, broadcast, of course, on Goodland's Rocket 102.5, NWKSradio.net, and, of course, the Hurl Chevrolet GMC video stream on X, Facebook, and YouTube. So glad you could join us here for a Thursday edition of the Blitz on this March 13th, where we're going to be experiencing some very warm temperatures, 72 degrees today, expected the high here in northwest Kansas. So it was a beautiful evening last night here up in the high plains, and another beautiful day on tap. But we've got lots to get to on a Thursday show. We'll be talking tons of basketball, everything from high school to college, and touching on a few other things as well. We have a first-time guest on the program today. Jake Stevens of GoPowerCat.com is going to join us coming up in our second segment to talk about Kansas State as their season came to an end last night. From what I've heard and seen, which more on that in just a little bit. But we'll get to that coming up here all in today's program. Of course, Max joins us from Hutch. He is on the road and is glad to see that he could get out of bed this morning. Got a nice little hair. I don't know what you would call that. Is that just out of bed head? I don't even know what you want to call
Out
that.
of the shower.
Out of the shower.
Out of the shower. Sorry if the quality of my voice is not as high today. We have got a little bit of a janky setup here in Hutch, but we're figuring out, it'll be better tomorrow. But we're working through it. It's interesting being in a hotel and, having this little desk to set up in the bed behind me, and then there's a mirror over the bed. But I'm not complaining. We're having a good time out here in Hutch.
No, there's a mirror over the bed.
Yeah, this is the bed.
Nice.
There's a mirror over the bed.
Classy establishment you got yourself.
I don't know if you can see me,
John.
but
No,
it'll do.
The face is too close. Hey, it'll do. It'll do.
They're going to
nothing wrong
kick
with
me
that.
out in about an hour because I got to extend for another night. So if someone just barges into my room and says you got to go, just know that's why.
Yoo-hoo, housekeeping.
Right. One of those. But I'm used to being in a hotel because pretty much the whole summer I was in different hotels across the Appalachians. So this is something I've kind of become used to over the last year, and I'm sure I'm going to continue to get used to staying in hotels if I want to keep being a broadcaster. So
Were you staying in hotels or in motels in the Appalachian League?
hotels. It was hotels. There were some solid hotels.
You know,
some solid
motels,
ones.
of
There were
course,
some
the
not solid ones.
You know, the motels, of course, are the ones, where the door's on the outside.
Right.
And so I didn't know if you stayed in any motels while you were in the
No.
Because to me,
Luckily,
that
it
sounds
was
you would see it quite a bit in the Appalachian League.
Right, but luckily it was a Major League Baseball sponsors the league, so we had some money to pay for some hotels, so that was nice.
MLB Baseball had some money to spread around and put people
Yeah,
in
they did.
decent lodging. Anyway, glad Max can join us once again from Hutch. Yes, we know the audio quality isn't as good. It kind of sounds like he's on a phone if he was joining us on the phone, but hopefully tomorrow we'll have it all picked up. This is what happens. I told Max before you leave, now grab everything. Don't forget anything. Grab everything. And something was
I also forgot my game boards.
Oh, you
didn't
really?
realize until I was
what?
Yeah, forgot the game boards. They're sitting on my desk in my studio. But the funny thing is, so that cord actually is in Scott City, and I forgot that I would need it again. So I just was like, you can throw it away because I was already back home by the time that I got a text from someone in Scott City saying, "Is this yours?" I was like, "Yeah, but I don't need it." I did need it, and I'm gonna have to stop at Walmart after this show and have it here for tomorrow's broadcast. But it is what it is. Too late now.
Yep, we'll make do. Anyway, full show ahead today. Let's dive in. State basketball yesterday got going across the state. 3 area teams from our listening region played. Just real quickly, Colby goes out and gets a dominant second half and defeats Osage City. Unlike what I heard, Max, when you got a little sped up, which made me laugh multiple times, 18-4. And then the Quinter girls won their first round matchup over South Gray, 65-54, and Wallace County girls, the only team from yesterday to lose in the first round from our area. They fall to the defending state champs Hanover, 64-49 inside the Colby Event Center, ending their season at 18-5. But Max, of course, was on the floor providing coverage on 100 points through the ride of Colby's second half rout of Osage City. 51-37, the final score. It was a lower scoring game in the first half and a much tighter contest in the first half, Max. What happened in the second half that allowed the Lady Eagles to pull away and win convincingly?
I tell you what, they just stopped turning the ball over. That was really the difference. And in the first half, they got to the line, but it wasn't at the level they were getting to the line in the second half. They went 24 of 31 from the free throw line throughout the entire game against only 5 of 6 from the free throw line for Osage City. So that obviously is the glaring difference in the box score. We're just looking at it. But, an 18-4 run, they were the ones forcing the turnovers and scoring off of them as opposed to kind of what was happening in the second quarter when Osage City was going on a little run to get themselves back in the game. But, only 2 scores combined in the first half. Both teams combined, only 4 girls had put the ball in the basket. It was Kaylin and Lexi Boss for Osage City, and it was Shaylee Holzmeister and Elizabeth Barton for the Colby Eagles. And then, I just think the ball control was a lot better. The passing was a lot stronger. They started getting into the groove of things and what their offense has been at its peak throughout the season, and that's exactly what we saw. Elizabeth Barton, though, 23 points and 17 rebounds, 6 offensive, 11 defensive rebounds. Barton had one of her best games all season. Her and Shaylee led in scoring with 23 a pop. And they weren't knocking down threes, 1 of 11 from 3-point land, and they were pushing it down in the paint, drawing fouls, getting to the line, making free throws. And that was the biggest difference in the second half, was the amount of free throws they took. And really, they did a great job guarding Kaylin Boss, who really had her way in the first half, scoring. And there was some adjustments that Coach Walker made in the second half. Maybe was what they were doing with the pick and roll, if they had Shaylee fading or going up against her up top. There was a couple different things that he told me in the post-game show that they did to adjust to guard her, and it worked. And she didn't score as much in the second half, and that led to that big run. Because when she's not scoring, it's really hard for that team to put points up.
The one thing that Colby does, I think, better than any team I've seen this year, maybe even for the last few years, is finding ways to get to the foul line, particularly Elizabeth Barton. I don't know if there's ever been a better player that I have seen at this level of finding a way to get to the free throw line as much as she does. And I don't know if that's something that Coach Walker teaches and works on. I'd be fascinated to know that. But I tell you what, she gets to the foul line all the time. And that will absolutely drain the opposition because you're giving up free shots and you're picking up fouls. I know at one point in time in the game, there were 4 girls with 4 fouls for Osage City.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that is just mentally taxing for an opponent because you're trying to slow them down, and all they do is just get in the paint, get fouled, go to the line, make the free throws. That's just like a death by 1,000 paper cuts is kind of the way that is for the opposition against Colby. So I give them a ton of credit. Shaylee Holzmeister had her probably a season high, if not her career best game when it mattered most. The funny thing is, you think about it, 46-51 came from 2 girls. That to me is pretty interesting to see. I don't expect that happening going forward against the competition that they'll face in the semifinals and the finals. Could be wrong, but I don't expect they're going to need a more balanced attack if they're going to advance into the state championship game.
Well, going back to Barton and her driving ability, I think that's something that she's just developed. I've asked them both about that, and I think it's just something that she's developed as a basketball player. She's not really scared of contact. I mean, I tell you what, Kaylin Boss was guarding her for a lot of the game. She was taking some hits from Kaylin throughout the basketball game, especially late. But yeah, I think that's just something she's developed, and it's not off. Even on the boys' side, there's some guys that aren't. She's not afraid of contact, and you don't see that often in high school basketball. So it is good to see, and it works because she gets to the line and she knocks down the free throw. She went 11 of 13 from the stripe. Did Elizabeth Barton. So really just an efficient game from her. 6 of 11 from the field. Great. I mean, just a great box score to look at on her side of things.
It was a great box score to look at for Colby, no matter how you want to slice it. 51-37, a rout in the first round. They get tomorrow at 2 o'clock Central Time. Max Left coverage 100 through the ride. Halstead, who is 23-1 after their 50-33 rout of Neodesha. There in that first round game. I will say this, the first round of the tournament, it's usually kind of a weeding out, who are the pretenders and who are the contenders. And now you have the 4 teams that are the true contenders for a state title, and the competition level will get ratcheted up. On the opposite side of the bracket, that semifinal game at 6 o'clock on Friday between Heston and Silver Lake, that will be a doozy, as that is a rematch of last year's state championship game. So that will be an absolute doozy of a contest. But Colby will have their hands full with Halstead, no doubt about it, because this is where the rubber meets the road, as they say. Really good teams facing off against each other, and any sort of imperfection can be exposed, and you can be playing for third place before you know it.
Yeah, I watched that game. I got there early and saw them play in Halstead. I saw them play before the Lady Eagles, and I know some of them did as well. But Addison Willis is the junior point guard on that team. She's fantastic. She was their leading scorer.
Halstead, right? Halstead,
yes.
Correct? Okay.
Yes, she was fantastic. She was their leading scorer. It's similar to Osage City when they have their girl that's going to go get their points for them, but they have a more surrounding talent, I think, from just watching them than what Osage had. And but she's fun to watch, and she's got some tough moves in a bag, what they say, Ross. She's got a deep bag, so it'll be interesting to see how they defend her, if they do something similar to what they did with Kaylin Boss last night, or if they switch it up a little bit.
Anyway, that game will be played coming up here Friday at 2 o'clock. Also yesterday, Quinter with the win over Montezuma South Gray, 65-54. The Lady Bulldogs, I think, led most of this game pretty comfortably. There was a moment with about 5 minutes left to go where the lead got down to 3 for Quinter, but they closed the game on an 11-2 run and able to get the win going away 65-54. They advance, and they will have a very tough game themselves in the semifinals on Friday at 6 o'clock Central Time down there at the United Wireless Arena in Dodge City. They get the undefeated 22-0 Little River, who, by the way, beat their first round opponent 76-27. So that will be a very tall task for anybody who faces Little River, and Quinter gets them next coming up here on Friday in the state semifinals. I mentioned, of course, Wallace County, their season comes to an end in a loss to the defending 1A D2 state champs Hanover, and they end their season at 18-5. So those are the results from yesterday. Round two, or I should say day two is how I should say it. Day two of the state tournaments continue today, and we will see all of the area boys teams take the court. The Dighton boys will be on the floor at the Colby Event Center. They are the 3 seed at 20-3, taking on Lebo, who is 13-9, which, by the way, I got many text messages because we talked about we didn't know where Lebo was yesterday. It's around just outside of Emporia. Thank you to all those listeners out there correcting us. But Dighton and Lebo will face off. That is another late tip. Every team but Colby got the late tip in the opening round. Dighton and Lebo playing at 8 o'clock in the central time zone over there in the 3-6. Should they win, they will face either Axtell, who is 22-1, or a team we've mentioned a lot on this show, Hutch Central Christian, who is the 7 seed. And we all know that is a underrated 7 seed from what they have done to this point in time. Don't be shocked once again if you see Hutch Central Christian playing in the state semifinals against the winner of Dighton and Lebo. That goes on today in the Class 1A D1 state basketball tournament in Dodge City. It will be Quinter getting South Gray again. So the girls played last night. The boys play against each other today. Quinter, the 6 seed at 17-6. Montezuma South Gray is 19-4. They are the 3 seed. And that will be once again at 8 o'clock Central Time with tip-off. And last but certainly not least, the Goodland Cowboys. Back at state for the second consecutive year. The Cowboys did it the first time in 95-96. And now they've done it in 2024 and 2025, going back to the state tournament in consecutive years. And the Cowboys, who were the 3 seed last year, now are the 6 seed, taking on the 3 seed in Cheney. The Cowboys, of course, are 20-3, and Cheney is 22-1. This will be a very interesting basketball game. Cheney is very well known for their football program and how good they are in football. They've had great talented players like Jackson Voth, who was a star for them. Not this previous fall, but 2 falls ago in football, and he now is playing wide receiver at Kansas State. They now have they had another great year this year in football, probably a little bit below their standards, going 9-2. But they've got a lot of great athletes on the floor, does Cheney. A couple of quick things about Cheney. They've got a great 6 foot, I think a pretty solid player, very well built, stout guy in Josh Burdick. He's committed to play football at Emporia State. He'll be a physical presence for them. And then they have a really good big man, the 6'7" sophomore, mind you, who has pogo springs for legs, Quade Thomas. I've seen highlights. I haven't seen him do anything but dunk. I don't know if he can, but he is that guy that lives under the bucket, jumps up and grabs any miss, and then just dunks it down while he's at it. That's what Quade Thomas does. And those 2 guys stand out to me the most. They have some other very good players. Jace Robertson is a really good player, and some other solid pieces. Carter, I think it's Carter Painter is how you say his name. They've got some very talented people. This is a very talented Cheney team. The one thing that stands out to me about Cheney is that the record at 22-1, they have 1 loss. It was by 13 to Haven in their midseason tournament championship game, which was called the Rupp tournament, by the way. The thing that stands out to me is that they have won by an average of over 33 points per game this year. That's what they've won by. They have had 5 games this year that have been decided by 10 points or less. 5. So out of the 23 games they've played, only 5 have been decided by 10 points or less. And so that, to me, is fascinating. So how challenged is this Cheney team? They are no doubt talented on the floor, and that should, scare anybody. But at the same time, I'm curious, have they ever been challenged or tested? We talked about it on the show for days leading into the Colby game. Do teams play the schedule like Colby, Goodland, Holcomb? Do they play those games where they're it's like playing every single night? You don't know if you're going to win or not because you're playing really good competition. I don't know if Cheney has faced that great a competition this year. I don't know. Doesn't mean that they have or they haven't. I just don't know. When you win by that amount, it makes you kind of question how great a competition you faced. So if you sock them in the mouth early, how will they respond? That's a question I have.
I feel like every time we say that Goodland's got to start hot early, they don't, and then they come back with a 20-4 run in the end of the fourth quarter. So I don't know.
Well, here's the thing.
Might come down to that again. But that's the thing. Goodland knows how to go on those runs late, and Cheney doesn't really hasn't had to. So
even if, like you said, Max, even if they don't get off to a hot start, if you can just stay like within a striking distance,
yeah,
don't let momentum get too far on the opposition side. You got to feel pretty good with about 5 minutes left that you're going to find a way to close.
Yeah, because, Goodland has guys that have taken those big shots already this season. They've taken those shots. They know what it feels like coming out of their hand. They know what it feels like in an intense atmosphere in the playoffs to take a big shot. And Cheney just hasn't yet. So that's such a big difference maker. If Goodland can stay in the game and be in it late, I just think that's such a big advantage for one side.
Yeah, very, very big game tonight. That will tip at 8 o'clock Central, 7 o'clock Mountain Time. I'll be on the air starting at 7:30 Mountain Time. We'll have a special color analyst with us. Friend of the program, Val Reese, will be joining me on the color for the state tournament. And so he'll be joining me, and we'll have coverage starting at about the bottom of the hour leading up into what'll be Goodland and Cheney, which should be a great basketball game. I really do believe that. A really good basketball game. I've mentioned Holcomb. And I forgot to mention that they actually played Heston in the first round yesterday at 6. They lost 52-37, but get this, Holcomb got out to a hot start thanks to threes. That sounds about right. Nailed a few threes, got up early. Heston, though, with way more talent, surpasses and beats them 52-37 when it's all said and done. Now the final score there for them. So there you go. There's your state basketball. Oh, also, by the way, I don't know if you saw this or not, Max, but there were 5 number 1 seeds that went down yesterday. 5 number 1. One of them was Hayes High Girls. Hayes High Girls went unbeaten into the state tournament, lost in the first round.
Who they lose to?
Gosh darn it. I'll look it up. I think it's one of those church schools. I think it's, oh gosh, I'm looking it up. Someone's going to text me before I get there. 5A girls bracket. Here we go. St. Thomas Aquinas.
Oh, they lost like St. Thomas Aquinas by where I grew up. Cool.
Right. 51-48 they lost. The unbeaten Hayes Lady Indians fall. Tough break for Len Melvin and the Lady Indians because, boy, they had a phenomenal season.
Well, but they've got one of the best freshmen in the state, so I'm sure they'll be back in no time.
Yeah. So very interesting. Like I said, 3 number 1 seeds go down, including Hayes High, which is a team we both saw this season and how talented they were, and they get knocked out by St. Thomas Aquinas there in the first round. All right. We're going to get to a timeout. We come back. We're going to talk some college basketball. Jake Stevens, first-time guest, is going to join us next from GoPowerCat.com. Stick around. Plenty more to get to here on a Thursday edition of the Morning Blitz.
Get ready for the Schilling Cattle Production Sale Wednesday, March 26th at 1 p.m. Central Time. With 60 Angus and 5 Limflex bulls and 10 Angus heifers, there's plenty to choose from. These are big, stout performance kind of cattle and great selection for Cavionese bulls. Check them out on Facebook at Schilling Cattle, or you can also watch the sale at TV Auction. The sale is located 6 miles north of the I-70 Exchange in Brewster, Kansas. Come check out great cattle, meet great people, and best of all, eat some fantastic food. So don't forget to mark your calendars for the Schilling Cattle Production Sale Wednesday, March 26th, 6 miles north of Brewster, Kansas.
It's time for a check of the markets with the Anderson Trade Group on the Kansas Farm and Ranch Radio Network.
Good morning. This is Kate Thompson with the Anderson Trade Group. Today is Thursday, March 13th. On the overnights last night, May corn higher 3 3/4 at 464.5. July up 3 3/4 at 471.25. September up 1 1/4 at 443 3/4. December corn up 1 1/2 at 449 3/4. May soybeans up 11 1/4 on the overnight at 10.11 3/4. July up 10 3/4 at 10.26 1/4. August up 9 3/4 at 10.23 1/2. September beans up 9 cents on the overnight at 10.10 1/2. Chicago wheat, the May contract higher 6 1/4 at 560 1/4. July up 5 3/4 at 575 1/4. September up 5 1/4 at 591 1/2. December soft wheat up 5 1/4 at 614 1/4. Kansas City wheat, the May contract higher 8 3/4 at 581 3/4. July up 7 3/4 at 594 1/2. September up 7 1/2 at 608 3/4. December hard wheat 7 1/4 at 629 1/4. On the stock market this morning, the Dow down $80 at 41,316. The S&P down 13 at 5,591. Gold higher $6.20 an ounce, 2,953. Crude oil down 38 cents a barrel at 67.30. If you have any questions about marketing grain or would like to talk about risk management options, give our Colorado office a call. John Hansey or John Stiles at 970-744-4484. Or in our Kansas City office, myself, Tom Sluto, Jared Law, or Tyler Ghosh at 913-748-3000.
The Anderson Trade Group, proud market partners with Kansas Farm and Ranch Radio. Find out more at andersongrain.com. The risk of loss through trading futures and or options is substantial, and each investor and or trader must consider whether this is a suitable investment. Past performance, whether actual or indicated, is not indicative of future results. The Anderson Trade Group has no guarantee that the advice given will result in profitable trades.
Today, we're talking with Zach Ogles, agronomy manager from Tessenderlo Curley. Zach, how can Thiosol and KTS improve outcomes for wheat growers?
When they apply a product like one of our thiosulfates, they're not only going to be receiving the sulfur benefit, they're going to be protecting the nitrogen that they're applying along with it. We can help a grower reduce losses through nitrate leaching. So we're helping to protect the groundwater, improving the well water quality, while keeping most of that nitrogen available to the plant.
Ask your local ag retailer for Thiosol and KTS.
Kochia ranks among the most troublesome weeds in fallow management systems. That's why Scorch EXT herbicide has received 24C registration for use in Kansas and Montana fallow. Scorch EXT controls Kochia plus other threatening broadleaf weeds like Canada and Russian thistle. Powered by Duplicent technology, this innovative three-way premix is developed in response to the rising storm of resistant Kochia, including types resistant to glyphosate, 2,4-D, or fluroxapyr. Take back control with Scorch EXT from New Farm.
All the sports you love, all in one place.
Ooh, this will come in handy.
This is the Morning Blitz.
Right on time for once. 8:35 Central, 7:35 Mountain Time. We're not overdue. Jake Stevens, our first-time guest, should feel honored. You can see him, of course, on the Hurl Chevrolet GMC video stream. Jake, good morning. Thanks for joining us, my friend. How are you doing today?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys. It's pretty fun to be on Mountain Time Radio. I never got to do that before, so it's a blast. But thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Have you ever been in Mountain Time, Jake?
I have. I've driven through Mountain Time where you guys are at to get out to Colorado a few times. I was actually out at the K-State game in Boulder earlier this year, so not too long ago.
You probably drove right by us and you didn't even know it. It's probably to be my guess. You drove right by us on the interstate. Didn't even wave. Didn't even know us. Now you'll have to the next time you do that, Jake.
That's right. Absolutely.
It's all right, Jake.
I'll give you guys a tip of the cap as I roll by.
It's all right. I did that for my entire life until I worked here, so it's totally understandable.
Jake Stevens. So here's the backstory. So I texted Ryan Gilbert, our good friend who's been on many times before. Said, Ryan, how do you feel about joining the show? And he goes, well, do you want to give one of our rookie guys a chance? I said, sure. So Jake, we're so happy that you're willing to join us, but it is kind of funny because Ryan's got too big time for us now. So now he's passing it off to the young bucks.
Man, Gills is always, he's been too big time. He's been too big time for a while now, but
it's the hair, right? It's the hair.
Yeah. And he's probably playing with it right now as we speak. Who knows?
I like Jake more now than I do even Ryan after that comment. That's fantastic. It was not a great night, though, for Kansas State basketball, Jake. They lose 70-56 in the second round of the Phillips 66 Big 12 championship there at Kansas City. Really bad start to that game for them as they get off there down 41-24. They didn't hit anything from 3 of 25. To me, about the game, I don't think anything really matters there. To me, it was the comments made after the game from like Jerome Tang. To me, I guess I was a little bit surprised that he said, I'm not interested in NIT. I'm not interested in the Crown, which is this new tournament over in Vegas. I'm not interested in playing any type of postseason. Were you surprised by those comments or not really?
I think I was kind of on the fence about those comments. I think the way he approached it, saying that guys like Coleman and David Gasson are going to want to be out by the time those tournaments come around is interesting. Especially with David being a guy that's been around the program for 3 years, and anymore in college basketball, it feels like if you have a guy for 3 years, that's as good as having a fifth-year senior. But I don't know. I think that the way this season went as a whole, I'm not upset about it. I think a lot of guys on this team, I think a lot of fans just want to move on. I think they want to put this season in the past. It obviously wasn't what a lot of people were thinking it was going to be. And that kind of reflected in a guy like Coleman's statements after the game yesterday too. So I think from a fan perspective, and probably what a lot of Coach Tang was seeing too, was let's just get this season over with. I don't know what this Crown tournament's going to look like. I think it's interesting. It's going to be a postseason tournament with more bigger brands, just being some of the better teams from the worst teams from better conferences. So maybe see what it looks like this year. And if it's something that comes up again in the future, kind of analyze it from there. But I think Coach Tang just kind of wanted this season to be over.
What did you take from or out of the Coleman Hawkins interviews after? Obviously, he was very emotional, but there were some interesting things that he said in there.
It's very interesting. I think there's a couple ways you can take it, because it shows how NIL can affect a single player. And as the season went on with Coleman, he obviously came in with huge expectations, being a $2 million guy that, he was never flaunting that he was worth $2 million, and nobody was. It was really all the outside noise that came in to say, hey, this is a $2 million guy. He better be the best player in the country. I mean, he better be 25 a night, 10 rebounds a night. And that's never who he was at Illinois. And I think he let the social media get to him a lot, and he said that. And it just shows how dangerous NIL can be for a kid's mental health. Because at the end of the day, he's a 23-year-old kid. I mean, he's not a grown-up, but he's getting paid like a professional. So you also have to kind of be able to take it like a professional. It's a very weird world of NIL that we're in. And he's one of the main examples of, if it doesn't work out and it doesn't live up to what you think it can be, what's going to happen. And he obviously struggled with it.
Jake Stevens is our guest from GoPowerCat.com. You mentioned the talk about, of course, social media impacting this team. I'm starting to think that it impacted this team way more, like almost to, I hate to say this, but to like an embarrassingly high level, because Coach Tang brought it up in a post-game interview with 810 Sports. Talking about how, I need to be better about telling the guys to not look at social media and be brother. I mean, it's almost like as if, I'm not saying that he is, but it's almost like saying, this season was pretty much altered because social media got to our kids. That's what it sounded like to me.
Yeah, it definitely had that kind of feel to it, which is not something you want in your team. If social media is taking over that much, there's a real problem. And it's not like K-State was the only team that had to deal with it. I mean, every Division I basketball team in the country is going to have kids that get DMs if they miss a game winner. And it happens all over the place, for better or for worse. I mean, I'm not out here promoting that it's a good thing, but it's going to happen. And I don't think you're going to stop it. And a lot of the times it's people that bet. A lot of the times it's not even your real fan base. It's someone who lost a sports bet or someone who lost a fantasy football game because of you. It's not even the real fans. And it seems like it really got to K-State this year more than any other team in the country, potentially. So it's weird.
Who needs to be better, in your opinion, Jake? Does it need to be the fans or the bettors or whoever is right? Do they need to be better, or do student athletes need to be better about mentally blocking that out? In your opinion, who needs to be better?
That's a great question. I mean, I think that's,
there's a lot of proponents, a lot of old school coaches out there that said when betting was going to take place, that this is a really bad thing. And people are like, it won't be that big a deal. Whatever. People are already betting on the game.
I think it's tough to ask bettors to be better, though.
I get you there, Max. I'm not disagreeing with that comment either. I mean, my guess is the kids have to find a way to mental block that out. But I mean, this is kind of the slippery slope you go on when you get in this deal where, once again, you start paying athletes, you start betting on games. And now, once again, I just find it so fascinating that yesterday the comment was about social media. And I feel like that was maybe reason A1 why this season maybe didn't go well for Kansas State.
Yeah, that's a great question that you ask. And I don't know who you ask to be better. I think you have to ask it on both ends, really. I mean, it's tough to ask a guy that lost a sports bet to be better because he probably has no ties to the university, to the player, and he's just mad that he lost a couple $100 on a bet or whatever. But I mean, you got to think that these guys can drown out the noise a little better than they have this year. Because the reason I say that is because other teams are getting the same messages and the same things are happening to them on social media, and they're losing games. It's not like K-State's the only team that lost a game in the country this year. I mean, everybody in the country is getting these DMs, and obviously some players are able to tune it out and move past it. We got some guys that weren't able to do that this year, and it showed. I don't know how you coach that. I think there's so many new things happening for college basketball coaches right now all at once, because you're having to re-recruit your team every year. You're having to figure out how much each player is worth. Then you're trying to hide how much they're worth and make it so that they feel safe. There's so much more than just coaching going on in college basketball and in college football for that matter.
Yeah, but it's such an interesting thing because this is something that has clearly affected K-State. At least they've made it public, which no other team has done, that it's really affecting them. Do you think that shows you, one, that just Jerome Tang is being honest about it and Coleman Hawkins are being honest about it, or does it show you that there may be like a larger culture problem with what K-State is that they're dealing with right now?
That's another great question. I've thought there's an issue with an internal culture all year, and it certainly feels like that. I mean, early on with Doug McDaniel not playing, and then the only reason he got to play was because Jerome Tang felt like it, and then all of a sudden he blooms into maybe the best player on the court for us during that 6-game win streak. It felt like there was an issue with the culture internally all season. And I think that Jerome Tang, when he's able to instill his culture in a team, can be a really good coach. And I think you saw that first year. I think they had a really good culture. I think that team connected really well. They loved the fans. They bought in, and they had some crazy talent. But, I mean, they had a good culture, it felt like. And it even felt like last season down the stretch, they figured out the culture. But this year, for whatever reason, I don't know if it was just because there's so much continuous roster turnover. It just feels like the culture never got there really at any point.
Jake Stevens is our guest here on the Hurl Chevrolet GMC video stream. He joins us, of course, from GoPowerCat.com, talking Kansas State as their season comes to an end at 16-17. Sounds like Jerome Tang's not going to pursue any postseason. And it's just, once again, it comes down to me. I think that's the fascinating conversation. I wonder how many people are going to talk about this going forward, about the impact of social media having on a basketball team, because I think a lot of people thought, even Coach Tang going into this year, that this team was going to be good. In your opinion, how much of a disappointment was this season from your expectations before the season began to where they sit here as the season is now over?
Yeah, I mean, hindsight's always 20/20, right? But I was definitely expecting more. This was a pretty big disappointment year. I thought this team was a lock to make the tournament. I thought this was a top half team in the Big 12, if not, top 6-ish. There's so much talent on this roster, and I suppose I kind of overlooked that. But even like a guy in By Fall, who's a McDonald's All-American guy, I figured at some point he was going to blossom, and he obviously ended up trying to get that red shirt. But you got on Yenso, I thought was going to be more. I even bought into Coleman Hawkins being more than advertised, and I think a lot of that had to do with the price tag on him. But it just feels like everybody kind of had a little bit of a letdown compared to expectations, other than David Gasson. I thought he had a really solid year and got better. But overall as a team, I definitely think this was a disappointing year.
What changes after a year like this in your mind on the side of Jerome Tang and just really K-State in general?
Man, I mean, to move the direction you want to move, I think there's got to be some staff changes. I think we've seen that, this staff is very close. They're good friends, and I think they're all good people. But at the end of the day, some of the offensive stuff just wasn't working this year. There was a lot of times it was just dribble, and chuck up a shot with 5 seconds left. There weren't a lot of sets. It felt like there wasn't that same chemistry. And maybe it's a staff issue, maybe it's not, but it certainly feels like changing a couple things around could really play into the future for this team, and just retaining a roster. I think over the last 3 seasons, you've seen 3 completely different teams, and David Gasson's been the only guy that's there for all of it. Last year, we recruit 3 freshmen, 2 of them leave, 1 of them stays. The one that stays obviously ends up in the doghouse and didn't play much this year, and Buddy Rich. And it feels like if we can keep 5 or 6 guys, And they don't even have to be starters, but just to have guys that come back, that understand the culture, that understand the program, and guys that you're comfortable having around the team, I think that would probably go the furthest than anything for the Cats.
And Jake Stevens, our guest here, GoPowerCat.com. Also, I think it was David Castillo who said that he would be back. I think in a post-game interview, he will be back next year, which is their 5-star, and that's huge. I think what Jake said there, I think, is absolutely correct. I think coaches are learning, like, we just can't go into the portal every year and build a brand new team with the most talent that we can't just go out and say, let's collect as much talent as we can, and then we'll find out how to make it play together. I think they're learning in this new era of sports that you need to bring in some guys that have some length of eligibility left in them so that they can then build a team. And then hopefully, like you said, keep that culture and that consistency going. I think you're exactly right, Jake.
Yeah, and you've seen other teams in the country that have struggled with it too. I mean, you look at Arkansas this year, they obviously kind of flipped everything, and Coach Cal brought some guys from Kentucky, but a bunch of new guys, and it took them a long time to figure their team out. I look at Indiana, they did the same thing. They spent a bunch of money in the portal, and
they've kind of put it together at the end though here.
they figured it out, and they have finally figured it out, but it took them a long time too. I mean, they through November and December, they were a top 25 team in the preseason, and they looked lost. And so obviously K-State's probably the biggest example of that happening, but we're not the only team in the country that's happened to. So I think coaches are slowly figuring out how to do it. And it's such a new thing. I mean, you can't blame a coach for not knowing how to do it right away, because the world of the transfer portal and NIL being borderline open free agency every year, where you have to re-recruit your whole team, not just new guys, it's crazy, but it's new. So I think coaches are going to have to just kind of figure it out as they go.
Jake, as we look ahead to, just last question for you, before we look ahead to next season, what are your expectations? Jerome Tang with that amazing first year, all the way to the Elite Eight, possibly the Final Four, and then to have back-to-back seasons of letdown years, not even making a tournament. What are the expectations for year number 4 for Jerome Tang in your mind?
I think a lot of it depends on what we've been talking about. I think a lot of it depends on who stays and who goes, because if he has 5 or 6 guys that he can keep, he can recruit the portal. He's finally gotten 2 incoming freshmen out of high school. If he can build a roster around what he's got, then I still hold out that he's a good enough coach to make the NCAA tournament. I think we've seen it. We know that he can do it. Now it's just a matter of, can he get back there? So I don't think it's crazy to say the expectation is to get back to the tournament next year. I think a lot of it will just depend on the moving pieces of the offseason, which typically you'll know pretty early on who's staying and who's going. So I think it's fair to think this team can get back to the tournament, though.
I've got one more question for you regarding next year. Is Jerome Tang on the hot seat next season?
Man, that's tough, because I think a lot of it, the contract buyout is huge. So I think for him to truly be on the hot seat, it would have to be a similar season to this year or worse. I think it's around $18 million to buy him out. And I don't think that's something that K-State's that interested in. I don't think that's something they want to do. I just think at this point, you kind of got to ride it out. And that's kind of why I think if you move around other pieces of your staff, maybe we find a new spark within that. So we'll see what they do. But I genuinely, it might sound crazy, but I don't think he's on the hot seat.
He is Jake Stevens of GoPowerCat.com. Jake, it was a great first visit. I love the cellar that you're broadcasting from. It's phenomenal. I know it's just the background, but
yeah, I'm in my dungeon.
You're in your dungeon. All right, buddy. Well, we'll do this again. All right. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day and a great weekend. We'll catch up soon.
Yes, go Cats. Thanks, guys.
Once again, great stuff there from Jake Stevens joining us here on the Morning Blitz. All right, let's get to – actually, I want to go – that whole conversation fascinates me, Max. If you think about it, we were talking about a season being disrupted because of social media.
Yeah.
And you can honestly almost say that for Kansas, too, with Zeke Mayo to an extent. Not on the same level. Not on the same level. I mean, that is amazing to me that Kansas State practically admitted that, we didn't have a great season because we let the social media get to our heads.
And there was the
negative quote.
This quote from Coleman Hawkins, I sent you it.
Yes.
Of him saying, that he let people down first and foremost, but also he said, I feel like I did a poor job of letting people talk about me. It affected my play. That just, you've got to be, it's tough. It's just tough because, and you hate to see it, and I get it. I get where they're coming from, and it's a hard thing. It's a hard thing in this time to play through all that stuff, especially when you're a guy like Coleman Hawkins or Zeke Mayo or AJ Storr or whoever it is. But at the same time, like, that's not going to change. Like, unfortunately, you asked a great question, Ross, of who has to be better. Unfortunately, the people in society as a whole and the gamblers are not going to be better. You can't ask them to be better because it's not going to happen. So as athletes, you just have to.
The problem is you let the cat out of the bag. That's the problem. You let the cat out of the bag by allowing these games to be gambled on. You let the cat out of the bag.
Well, yeah, but I just, my thing would be, even if it does affect you, first of all, you got to find a way to work through it. You can't let it affect your play on the court. But I just don't. It sucks, and it's the end of the year, and it's different. But I just don't think you can show publicly how much it did affect you, because it just boy, it would just be such a weird spot to be in if you're a K-State fan and be like, this stuff is affecting the team. It just feels like kind of a weak culture. I'm not gonna lie, and it's tough to say that because there's some really terrible things that are said, and I'm sure it would get to me if they were said to me. But it's just you expect those guys that are being paid like professional athletes now to not let that affect their on-court play.
I agree. All right, we got to get to break. We'll come back. We'll hit on KU's overtime win over UCF. Colorado is still around in the Big 12 tournament.
I told you. I said they're going to be good.
And there's some Bronco news as well, and some ridiculous, and I do mean ridiculous, stats in the walk-off. That's next here in the Morning Blitz.
At FNB Bank, we understand the backbone of our community is our local farmers and ranchers. Whether you're growing crops, raising livestock, or investing in new equipment, we're here to help you succeed. Our agricultural loans are tailored to meet the unique needs of your farm, with flexible terms from people who understand what it takes to make it in agriculture. When you partner with FNB Bank, you're working with neighbors who know the land and are invested in your success. FNB Bank, rooted in our community, growing with you. Member FDIC.
The Farmers State Bank of Oakley has been financing agriculture since the day we opened our doors. Hello, this is Corbin, and we are proud to be your locally owned partner in ag. We invite you to come and visit with us when you need to purchase new or used farm equipment, or need any type of agriculture or business loan. We have the knowledge, experience, and financial resources to keep you growing. The Farmers State Bank of Oakley, a tradition of community and agriculture for over 115 years. Member FDIC.
Earl Chevrolet GMC in Goodland, Kansas is hiring now, looking for technicians of all levels and a service advisor to join their team. Enjoy competitive wages, consistent work, plus 401k and health benefits, all in a great work environment. If you're ready for a rewarding career with a trusted dealership, apply today. Visit them in person on South Commerce Road in Goodland or apply on Facebook. Join the Earl Chevrolet GMC family today.
From the locker room to your morning commute, it's all sports, all the time.
That's what I'm talking about. Sport!
On the Morning Blitz.
Great conversation with Jake Stevens. We'll certainly have him back on from Go Power Cat. He was wonderful. Ryan Gilbert did us a solid, so I'll give Ryan credit. I was going to give Brian a bunch of flack, passing us off, but, the roster there at Go Power Cat is apparently very deep. They have lots of.
Well, I tell you what, if he's assigned anything, they might have a good rookie class over there at GoPowerCat.com.
Yeah, he was great, and I love the conversation. If you missed any of it, I think we really uncovered something. I think that's a big growing topic in college sports. Well, if you missed that conversation, you're going to go back and check out the podcast. But you can get your podcast. You can rewatch the show on YouTube if you want to. You can watch the show any way you want. So. If you miss any of it, you can go back and check it for a second time, see what dumb things we said, if you'd like to do that as well. Kansas kept Max up late, and also Papa Gersh up a little later past his bedtime. They went into overtime, but beat UCF 98-94 last night. UCF with a great second half. I mean, like 13 minutes left, I think Kansas State led by like 13 or 14. It might have been more. And UCF comes charging back on a big run and takes the lead on a three-pointer, and Kansas able to pull it out in overtime, partially because of foul trouble on UCF and also because they were playing their second game in practically 28 hours, you could just see UCF was wearing down physically. But Kansas gets the win, advances into the next round against Arizona. What were your quick takeaways from this game?
Yeah, I've got a few thoughts. First of all, I thought those guys, the KU played with energy for the majority of that game, which was great to see. I thought that A.J. Storr obviously had his best game, and if he can keep playing like that, KU might actually be a problem down the stretch. If A.J. Storr can drop 17, 18, 16, huge. whatever he did, it was great, and I love to see it because I love A.J., and I've been rooting for him all year. K.J. Adams played a fantastic 39 and a half minutes of the regulation time until he decided to do that silly thing he always does, Ross, that we've talked about all year, where there's, the clock's running down, let me pull up and take a mid-range shot I've never hit in my entire life. Yeah, and then whatever on God's green earth that inbounds play was, where then he took it baseline and just ran all the way out of bounds like he was Dan Orlovsky on the Lions. But I tell you what, they played well enough to beat a team that was on fire from beyond the arc. And that shows me that they can beat one of those mid-major schools they're probably going to have to play in round one or whenever in the tournament that is just going to shoot three after three after three and knock them all down. It showed me that KU can score at a high level. So it was good to see. It was even though it was UCF, who KU had beaten by 50 at one point in the regular season, and maybe they're not the best team in the Big 12, but they played fantastic last night. And I was pretty impressed with how KU played besides that final stretch of regulation, because there was in no world that game should have gone to overtime. In no world. You got the ball up 3 with like 20. There's no way that game should go to overtime. They cannot close out games, but they got the job done, and I was pretty impressed.
Both teams shot the ball exceptionally well. I mean, it's not like if KU didn't hit threes. I mean, they were 12 of 27. Oh, yeah. So, I mean, both teams shot it well. I mean, the stats are almost identical in a lot of spots, except for rebounding. KU dominated on the glass. They were +9 a rebounding margin. Keyshawn Hall, is that a guy we're going to see in the NBA? Boy, it sure looks like it.
Yeah, I would think so. I really would think so. I think they've got a couple. And they, you know what? Even at the end of the game, they had a wide open floater to tie that game. They had a wide open floater. They should have won, honestly, in overtime. Probably. They had such a good look to finish that game off, and he missed it. Scheim or whatever their big guy's name is. So that even though it was a miss, it still made me upset that how in the world could he have gotten that wide open? But yeah, I think you'll see him in the NBA, and that's a feisty UCF team that played their best basketball last night.
What do Elizabeth Barton and Hunter Dickinson have in common?
They had 17 rebounds last night
and 23 points.
Did they really have the same stat line?
When I saw that final stat line, I thought, geez, they had the same exact points last night.
And they're both going to round 2.
Yep. Colorado with a 67-60 win. The Buffaloes had a 15-0 run. They were down. They come back. They beat West Virginia, who let it go right down their leg. Beat it right down their leg to West Virginia. And the Buffaloes now will face a very, very stiff test in Houston. But what a great story it's been after a horrific regular season to put it together in the postseason. Tad Boyle.
Who would have thought that Colorado was going to be playing later basketball than K-State this season? Not me. I would not have guessed that. Would not have guessed that.
Not on my bingo card. Also, before we get to the walk-off, congratulations to the Denver Broncos. They had a big signing yesterday. I know listener Michael's pumped up, but they signed tight end Evan Ingram to a deal yesterday. A very big, long, athletic tight end who has dealt with some injuries over the course of his career. But if he can stay healthy, which usually moving to higher altitude is not the place to go to staying healthy. There's science behind that. Look at Chris Bryant. but anyway, if Evan Ingram can be a decent, that's a nice big target for Bo Nix to throw to. Big sign there, I thought, for the Broncos in the NFL. Okay, we got to get to the walk-off.
And back lifts his ball high and deep to right. How about a walk-off Grady? Thomas to the 10. Denver's going on to New England. They win it on the first play of overtime. Mahomes flings it. It's there. Hardman. Jackpot. Kansas City.
What were your thoughts when you saw the news that Bobby Witt was hit by a baseball and he might be out for a significant time?
Scared, frightened, nauseous, dizzy, lightheaded. I'm just kidding. I was pretty scared, but it sounds like he's good. It was a great Vinny Pasquantino, who is amazing. If you're a Royals fan, you got to follow Vinny on Twitter. He's hysterical. he tweeted a picture of Bobby tweeting and said, I just watched him tweet that he was good, and he tweeted it with his left hand. So that's all I needed to hear. Vinny says he's good, then he is good. But I was very worried. I was scared.
Also on the diamond yesterday, Colby Community College softball lost both games to Butler, 9-4, 12-1. Fortis Tech Northwest swept by Garden City, 22-9, 19-2. Colby baseball back on the diamond today for their Jayhawk Conference opener against Garden City. Former assistant for Ryan Carter is the head coach there at Garden. And so first pitch time is at 1 Central Time from Young Memorial Field. And boy, a beautiful day for baseball on the high plains there in Colby at beautiful Young Memorial Field. Some ridiculous stats from yesterday in the world of sports. NBA last night, it was the Thunder and the Celtics. And the Celtics shot 63 threes, only made 20. Oh my gosh, that's ridiculous. 63. You can't win doing that.
That is a Celtics thing, though. Don't think that I know they shoot a lot of threes in the NBA, but the Celtics shoot way more than anyone else. That is a Celtics thing. They just chuck threes. They chuck threes. That's what they do.
And KU baseball yesterday beats Minnesota in a bludgeoning 29-2, thanks to back-to-back jacks, 5 consecutive homers. It was a bad day to be a Golden Gopher pitcher.
At the Vikings Stadium, too, which made it even a cooler, more ridiculous thing.
Absolutely.
So, rock shock.
All right, that'll do it for us. Catch Goodland Cowboy basketball tonight on the air around 7:30 Central, 6:30 Mountain Time with Goodland Game Day presented by the insurance agency. Myself and Val Reese will be bringing you coverage courtside there from the Hutchins Sports Arena. We'll see you then. Have a great rest of your day. We're back again tomorrow in 23 hours with the Blitz.